All right, we are at 11:02, and I think we are going to go ahead and start the meeting. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the October Missouri Evergreen Cataloging Committee. I'm Liz, and I'm hosting this month. Kate is out for a little bit, so I apologize, or hello, I don't know. So it's just me this morning. So this may take a shorter amount than usual. We will see. So who knows? So we're going to get started here with our cataloging committee news. And as always, the first two things on this are, of course, the cataloging committee board report that Kate puts together and gives to the executive committee. So this went to them at the end of last month. So feel free to read through that. And then also we like to link the monthly cataloging reports. So those are the monthly reports that we get from Rogan for items that may or may not be mismatched or incorrect or etc. If you have any questions on any of that, please feel free to email me or the cataloging committee. So moving right along, consortium cataloger news, that's me, I guess. So of course, trainings. Trainings always available upon request for individual or small groups via Zoom. So whether it is something specific about Missouri Evergreen cataloging, how do I do such and such in the ILS, or say authority records, how do I look for authorities, use authorities, just reach out to me via email, or you can use the link that is listed in the agenda to sign up for training. So you're never alone, guys. If you need something, please reach out and ask. I am happy to help with anything you need. And of course, cataloging certification. So we are always moving right along on that. We have 149 people certified at the basic level and 90 at advanced. So that's a lot of people. We will start recertification in January of 2024. This will consist of like a quiz and practical work, but it won't be as involved practical work as it was when you certified the first time. And it will be, let's say you are currently certified at the advanced level. You would recertify at the advanced level. You wouldn't have to recertify at the basic and advanced, if that makes sense. So you would have to do two if you're at the advanced, just the advanced. It has going to transition to the, I want to say Odoo or maybe Udo, I don't know. I never know how to pronounce this, to that platform. I have linked it in the agenda if you want to kind of glance at it. It is not finalized, so please do not start taking it. But I just wanted to show you kind of what it would look like. I have started inputting stuff for the regular certification because that's going to transfer onto this also. So it's much more of a college kind of LMS, learning management system style. So yes, CATS, they're from the Library of Congress. I didn't know what else to put here, guys, because, you know, what is cataloging? So this is what it kind of ends up looking like. Your view will be slightly different since I'm technically the teacher. My view is slightly different, but it ends up being all these things you can open. So let's just like, and then you can make it bigger, smaller, obviously print it out, and you go through it like that. And then at the very bottom, I haven't uploaded the coursework for the advanced one yet, but that's how that will look. So if you want to poke around on there, feel free to. It is a work in progress, but if you do poke around on there and see something egregiously wrong, please email me and let me know so that I can fix it. Because currently it's just me on there uploading things, and I haven't even gotten to the proofreading stage yet. So, and I just wanted to let everybody know that along with working on the cataloging certification, recertification, documentation, that's hard to say, I am also going to start looking at directions for monthly reports. The cataloging committee has started this, and now we're really getting into it. We want to make sure they all kind of look the same. So keep an eye out, those will start coming out. And then they will be linked on the MEC website and or the Odoo platform, probably both. But again, if you have questions before that, please contact Cat Help or me specifically, because I know they're complicated. So help is always here if you need it. Do we have any questions about certification or recertification? Okay, hearing none, we will keep buzzing along. Cataloging Connect. So every month we like to remind you guys where to find the meetings, because I lose this every time. I have to hunt and peck for it when I go to the MEC website. So just so you know, all the meetings, including the cataloging meeting, are listed on the Missouri Evergreen meeting calendar. And so from the homepage, you can go to the member resources drop down and then the meeting calendar. And that's where all the Zoom links are. Of course, a lot of the committees will send out the agendas with the link before, like a couple of days or a week before, but just in case, that is where they are all linked if you forget or can't find the link. Migrations are ongoing. So Morgan County had their go live, so welcome to Morgan County. And we have two, well, no, they're not go live. What day is it? Who am I? Sorry, I was thinking Nevada. Nevada had their go live. Welcome Nevada. Morgan County has their go live November 9th. So they're in the final stages of setting up everything for their migration and their like circulation policies and that part. So they are going to be with us shortly. So far, 2024 officially, we have West Plains and Adair signed up to be coming in spring 2024. Those don't have specific dates yet, but that is what is on the calendar thus far. So any questions about migrations?
True.
All right. We are moving right along, guys. When it's only me, there's only so much I can say. So we are at CADloggers Breathe Fire. And of course, this is where we like to link a bug that affects CADloggers each month. And the bug I picked out is an interesting one. So this is a bug that affects the 007 physical characteristics wizard, and specifically records that would have multiple of these fields. So, you know, some records just have one, but this is a repeatable field. So let's say you have a kit or a record that is like a DVD Blu-ray combo. It would have multiple 007s. So this is a bug that if you're going in to add a second 007 to a MARC record and you use the wizard, for some reason, it deletes the first one that was already there. So that's not helpful, correct? That's not what we want. So it is a confirmed bug. It's already, you know, so many people affected by it, but that's what's happening. It's confirmed. It is even a confirmed bug in the newer iterations of Evergreen past 2.72. So if you would like to go in and add fire to this, if this affects you, please do so. This is a kind of stinky one. It involves having to use the flat text editor and copy and paste and then go in and kind of mess with the 007 instead of just having to add a field and go about your business. So it's a little tricky workaround. It can be done, but it's just an annoying one. So that's our bug for this month. And of course, if you do not know how to add heat or anything about bugs, we have those directions on the MEC homepage. There are instructions listed there. In this month, I also wanted to talk about, there's an enhanced MARC editor update. So I will click on this. And this has been just a bug for just a while. I can't even remember, like just a long time. And this is talking about the advanced MARC editor and how it's just, I'm just gonna say wonky. It doesn't work exactly the way you would think it would. And there's actually going to be a fix for this. And as the agenda says, it's being funded by King County, so another consortium, but we will also get to reap the benefits of them funding this. So when this fix comes out, we will get to see the new enhanced Mark Editor. I haven't seen an exact date of when this will be like fixed and it will be pretty and, you know, shiny and new, but this is something that, you know, these bugs, this is an example of what can happen when enough people add heat, it affects enough people, and King County was like, oh, this bothers us enough, we're going to fund it. So hooray, we will get to reap the benefits of this too. So I would expect to see that in hopefully the next 6 months to a year. This will involve right-clicking in the advanced editor and what happens then. It will also involve making the advanced Mark Editor more user-friendly with even the color scheme. So yeah, so it's, you know, compatibility issues and issues like that, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to give you guys an example of this is what the breathing fire does if enough people and, you know, get behind something and change, hooray. So that will be, I'll keep you updated on when we can see that happen and when we can expect to see changes and what those look like. Because that will be really weird for us when all of a sudden there's just changes in there, of course. So we're at cataloging discussion. So cataloging discussion today, y'all, is pretty easy. There are several things in here in the Mark Fields 101 because they were just simple ones, okay? So the first thing we have in Mark Field 101 we want to discuss is the system control number, and that's your 035 field. 035 fields are generated by the ILS, and it's a number that is given to your record. So Mark records can have multiple 035 fields when they've been imported between multiple systems. So say you migrate your library and you come into Missouri Evergreen, you may have an 035 field from your previous ILS that then comes into our ILS. Or you may be bringing in records, say, through V3950 that have several 035 fields. And when you import those, they come into ours and it brings us with them. So you can see several of them. We like to delete the ones that we don't need because there can be multiples of them. It gets messy. And I always say any 035 fields that are not from Sky River or OCLC, you can delete them. And that is because Sky River and OCLC are specifically ones that we use as match points. And that means a match point is something we use for migrating libraries when we're matching their bib records. So those utilities are shared between, right? They're all these libraries using Sky River and OCLC. So those match points mean something. However, maybe your match point in your old system that happened to be brought over as an 035, it could just be like the ISBN number, and that doesn't really do anything. It just makes clutter. So we would delete those. So I've seen records up to like 5 or 6 035s in them. So feel free to delete them out if they are not from OCLC and not from Sky River. And here's, I put an example of one that was like a Cersei system. They'll put a U in and they will have, this one's just a random number that it was assigned. Sometimes it's, you know, a ISBN, who knows? Depends how the system was set up. Does that make sense to everyone? Anybody have any questions about an 035? Sometimes the 035s from OCLC are catalog or like formatted in 2 different ways. I put an example here where it says OCLC and then a number. Sometimes you see them where it says like OCN. That's okay, that's also OCLC. I'm not sure why they're slightly different. Those can stay also. I know you guys have to have questions. No one wants to talk to me this morning. That's okay. We're moving right along. This will be the shortest cataloging meeting ever, but that's all right. Okay, So because the 035 was such an easy field to talk about, there's really nothing to do with it. It's either take it out or leave it in. We never create an 035. It just is. I decided to go ahead and talk a little bit about the 040 and the 049. So the 049, I have linked them out as I always do here. If you want a little, like, read the actual in-depth directions about them, or what all the fields are that you can use in there. But these are mostly concerned to us, of course, when we are importing records or we are editing records, because this is where, and I put this in quotation marks, we sign our MARC records. And these are the breadcrumbs that we leave between our catalogers about what is where. So you would add an 049 if you import the record. It may or may not add the 049 for you. When I import it, it does not. So I have to add mine. And remember that your 049 is supposed to be 4 alphanumeric whatevers. And most people's OCLC symbol is 3. So if yours is 3, you have to add an A to that. So I'm MEC, and if I add an 049, I become MECA. So I have made directions for this. I will open them for you, that are going to go into the certification information on the learning management Odoo site. I have not posted them yet. I have not gotten that far. However, here they are. So I thought I would throw them out to you for now to look at them. So we've just talked about our local holdings and where we add them when we import or create that record. That's our 049. Now, the 040 is messier, right? It can be very, very long. That is because that is showing the source. That shows technically who created it, and then everybody who's edited it after that. So for the translation on this one, the A right here, the NYP, it's New York Public Library. So New York Public Library created this record. The B then shows the catalog, like the language. So it's in English. The E is then, what kind of cataloging language is this? It's RDA. If you're cataloging in AAC2, which we don't generally do, we like to use RDA. There's no E there, but RDA requires you put an E there. And then the Ds after that show everyone who has edited this. So there is somewhere you can actually, I have it linked here, where you can look up in the directory to see who all of these people are. If it's somebody outside of MEC, if it's somebody internally, we have a list on our website where you can say, oh, well, that's, that's St. Joseph, or that's St. Genevieve, or that's Jefferson County. But if it's somebody outside and you're just curious, who is that? They edited the record. There is a directory in OCLC where you can look it up and see anyone's OCLC symbol and say, oh, that was such and such from Canada. Who knows? But that's what the Ds are in the 040. So sometimes in a record, you will have an 040 that spills onto several lines because many people have edited that record. And that's fine. That's just where that record has been, who has touched it. Those are our breadcrumbs. Other times, you may just have like 4 things. You may just have who created it, the language, the cataloging standard, and then maybe only one person edited it. That's fine too. Just remember that if you edit a record, you should be adding a D field with your OCLC symbol in the 040. Editing, guys, involves anything from changing punctuation to doing like a bigger edit, like adding a whole field or anything. Okay, so I'm a stickler on some places having punctuation, and I will just go in and put like, oh, a period is supposed to be there. But when I add that period, I have to add my D with match in the 040. And while it's annoying, it just is what it is. So just keep that in mind. No matter what edits you are making to the record, if you edit it in our system, you have to leave your breadcrumb in your 040. Anybody have any questions on that? You guys are not chatty this morning. It's okay though. These are pretty easy ones. And I feel like we talk about them a lot, especially the 040 and the 049, because they're very important in consortium cataloging. So,
Liz, there is a conversation in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you can only see the agenda. I'm the worst. Thank you, though. Let's see. There. There's what I was talking about. Nobody could see. These are the directions that will be inserted into the LMS. And I will send them out when I send out, once this meeting is posted online and I send out the notes from it, I'll include this so you guys have it also in case you want it. But this is just going over exactly what we just talked about. And it also includes information on the 902, since that kind of goes along with it. It's also someplace we sign the record, even though we're not talking about that right now. I'm sorry, guys, I missed your chat. Okay, and Katie Hill, hello Katie, from Cape Shore Order asked, if you're editing an on-order record and only changing all caps, do you add your own signature? Yes. If you were editing anything on a record, yes. Just like I have a stickler for the one period. If I put that period in, I should sign my record. Do I forget sometimes? Yes, because do as I say, not as I do. We need to be diligent about this, but sometimes it's hard to remember. But anything you edit, you should be adding that. Okay, and merging records have to add the 040. Yes, merging is considering editing a record. Since you are combining two into one, that's considered editing a record. So you would add the D into the 040 when merging or overlaying. That's considered editing a record. I know it's kind of confusing. Dorinda says, when inputting a MARC record and there's already an 049 RE Sky, do you change it to hours or do you leave it and just do the 040? Technically, you should change it to you, because to us, you're the one importing the record into the system. Now, are you going to get in trouble if you forget to do that? No. Because an 049 being there at all kind of implies like, yes, this was imported from somewhere else, obviously. And if you're adding your D into the 040, it's an assumption, but it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I changed mine, but thank you to everyone pointing out that I did not have this up and that I had things in the chat. This is hard to do with one screen. I will go back and share the agenda again. Maybe. There we go. Okay. What do we do if there's no 049 in a record in Evergreen? Oh, an older, you don't have to add one. If somebody didn't come along and you didn't import that record, you don't have to add the 049 because you didn't import it. But there are just going to be some, not all records are going to have one. It's just the way it is. People are going to forget. The older records are not going to have one. That's fine. Just when we're adding new ones, we want to make sure that they're there. It just helps everyone figure it out. Any more questions, guys? I feel like we're going to beat this dead horse till there's no horse left at all, and that's fine. Okay. I will send those directions out when I send out the notes for this meeting, so you can have them for whatever. The next thing we want to talk about is, this has been brought up to me a couple times more over the last couple months. I feel like this is happening more. It's something with the 520, which is the summary field, which, you know, by MEC standards, we like every record to have a summary field. So whether that's the summary of the book, or you made a kit and it's the summary of what the kit is for, or whatever, we like every record to have a 520. Well, when these records are being brought in, sometimes from Z3950, as Marianne pointed out to me, they're bringing in extra characters, which I thought this was only happening when we were copying and pasting from Amazon, but it's not. And I don't know what's happening with Z3950, and I have a help ticket to ask, but we need to make sure that when we're saving our record, before we leave that record and move on, we are giving a look at the 520 as well as everything else, because those extra characters make it completely illegible for us and the patrons. And when I say extra characters, I don't exactly understand the coding of how this is happening. It's somehow they're hidden in the code. And so you bring a record in, and instead of, say, an apostrophe, it then has an apostrophe and an and symbol and a quotation symbol and an A, and then the S.
I think some of those come like, you know how you do an Alt 0233 for an accent above the letter E.
Yes.
I think that's where some of those are, because they are special characters that are being replaced.
Yeah. Some of them are definitely special characters, but like a comma shouldn't be. So like, I don't understand that one. And when they're coming in, like, so I understand that from Amazon specifically, but coming in through Z3950 is the one that really confuses me, because it looks correct when you're looking at the record before you import it in Z3950, but then when you save it, it's something has created those weird extra characters. So just be sure before you completely walk away from your bib records that you are reading over your 520 for basically spelling errors and extra junk. I have taken to copying and pasting my 520 into like a Word doc or a notepad before copying again and pasting it into Missouri Evergreen, because something about doing that. So if I go from Amazon to Notepad, Notepad to Missouri Evergreen, something about that makes the extra characters not show up. Why? I don't know, but it does. Anybody have questions on that? That's just, it's annoying, and the patron can see it. And I wish we had a spell check, but we don't. So we have to be a little more careful with those. And apparently it's making new mistakes for us to catch. So that's fun too. Vicky asked, when we update a record in the catalog and there isn't an 040 field, should we add English and RDA as well as our code? Yes, please. technically that field, the 040, is supposed to have the English and the RDA in there. Please add those if it just is missing them completely. And then, yeah, Marion's talking about the 29, yes. Oh yeah, the double dash seems to, somehow that messes up completely also. Even though the double dash is a symbol that is often used in cataloging, especially in the 505, that seems to mess everybody, like seems to mess up the coding and create these weird characters. We have a sample record. I will find a sample record and send one out. I'm bad about having a sample record on hand. I usually just fix them. So I will find a sample and send it out to everyone.
Liz, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just think it would be very beneficial because I get to the point where if I'm adding something, I will inevitably forget something, or, I think it would be beneficial for everybody just to have, this is what a pristine record needs to look like. So when we're bringing it into Evergreen, or when we're adding something, we know that this is what they need to look like. So that's where I'm coming from with it. And I just think it'll help me, especially if I ever add anything originally. This way I know what needs to be on there and what doesn't need to be on there, because it can get overwhelming.
Okay, because that's okay. So what Sean's talking about is an example record, but these are more like it's like a crib sheet, right? No, I said it wrong again. Crib sheet. For years, I thought it was crib sheet, like like a crypt keeper, but it's not. It's a crib sheet with a B. So that is something I'm actually working on to put in with the advanced cataloging certification in the new system. Let's see. Let me show you what I have going. Can you see where it says mark crib sheet? Are you still seeing the agenda, or do you see the document now?
We see the crib sheet.
Awesome. Okay, so this will get uploaded eventually. I'm trying to come up with an example of everything you could possibly want. Now, that will never happen because it's hard. But so far, I started with books. So I go through what your fixed fields, your leaders look like, and then say you're doing an adult nonfiction book. I put an example of an adult nonfiction book in, and this would be your example of a pristine record. And I pull out things that show you exactly what makes it adult and nonfiction. But looking at this, you can see it has all the things. And so then I go through, and then it's the adult fiction, okay? Adult fiction. And then what makes this a fiction record? Fiction. Large print. So I am making crib sheets for all of you because these were super helpful when I was learning to catalog. I had a book that had crib sheets for literally everything. If there was something remotely different about a record, I printed it off and put it in there. So I'm making these for you guys. If you would like this document before it's even finished, I can do that. It just will not be complete. But this is what I have in it already. So adult graphic novel, adult comic book, since those are different, correct? So keep going down. Young adult fiction, young adult graphic novel, juvenile fiction, juvenile nonfiction, juvenile graphic novel, juvenile board book, juvenile picture book. And you can see why this is taking me so long, because I'm trying to find an example of every little twist that you could possibly have a question about so that you can have a reference for it. Then I went to audiobooks, and have just started audiobooks. So I'm at adult CD audiobook right now. And that's the only one I have in there. So does that look like something that would be helpful to you guys? Is that what you're wanting for crib sheets? Just examples like that?
I think those would be awesome to have. We've got some
Okay.
comments in the chat that say that as well.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. If you think of specific examples of a crib sheet that you would like, feel free to email it to me and I will make sure I include it, because this document is going to get really, really big. It's already 15 pages. I'm hardly into it, trying to think of all the examples we need. But send it to me and I will make sure it makes it in here as an example. Okay. So I know there were some crib sheets with the last advanced certification, but I wanted to make sure there were some for all the things and all the questions, because I depended on them so much when I learned to catalog, and I wanted you guys to have them too.
Can you send us a list of the crib sheets that you already have done or are working on, so that way we can know if there are any that are not on that list to send you?
Absolutely. I will. I have them written down in a notebook, so I will type those out after this meeting and I will send it to the AME catalogers and let you know. These
Awesome,
are the ones I
thanks.
have written down and have planned to do. And if yours is not on that list or it's slightly different, then you can send it to me and I will make sure it gets in there.
Thank you.
And then the crib sheets will be many, many, many pages long, but then you will have examples of all the things you want. Okay, so I'm glad, thank you. That was actually great. It was slightly off topic, but like, thank you. So that's fantastic. You guys know what I'm working on. You know what you can send me to help. We've talked about our 520 fields, which I feel like are going to continue to plague us. I don't know if there is a bug to have a spell check added into the ILS. But actually that would be something to look at. So I'm going to write myself a note to look for that, because that would be something that would help with our 520 issues. Any other questions?
Liz, one final thing.
Mhm.
As one of the libraries that had the Stranger Things 3 DVD in my collection, I will just say it is it's by all means a bootleg, but it is probably the best bootleg I have ever seen. I
Yeah.
cannot, for the life of me, you could not prove to me that it was not released from the distributor, because the DVD has it written on it, like laser engraved into it. It's pristine. It's going to make everyone's job 10 times harder when these things are coming out and they look as good as they do, because I've caught a few of them before where the DVD doesn't look right and it's close, but it's not passable for us. But this one, I don't even know how you could catch it, because I didn't. I literally was looking at it thinking, no, I have a legit copy, but I don't. I have two illegit copies.
So Sean is talking about, we had some incidents of some bootleg things in the catalog. So it's mentioned actually in the cataloging board report about how we have a piracy policy now to address these things, wherein we contact the library and tell them, hey, we think this is a bootleg and it can't be in the catalog, because we would all then get in trouble if it was noticed in the catalog. And Sean's right, these bootlegs and these like releases are not like they used to be. They are not like somebody printed this random DVD out in their basement on their computer. They look amazing. You would not know that it is bootleg at all, unless you just happen to be that person who's like, oh, I know Stranger Things season whatever was not released. And then you go looking online and you're like, yeah, that's not it. This is especially important with ordering from Amazon to be aware of. If you use a vendor, they kind of have to be aware of this too. So if you're ordering from like Baker and Taylor and you're only ordering from Baker and Taylor, you're less likely to encounter this issue. But if you're like most people, most libraries, and you order some things from Amazon, it's tricky. It is very tricky, and you cannot tell. So, like everything else, scammers have gotten way smarter, and it's one of those things we just have to be aware of. Nobody's, angry or anything. It's just we were all fooled. So, I would probably keep it as a good example and be like, "This was bootleg. Hey, look at this. We would have never known." So yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up because, like I said, that DVD, I mean, I'd be more than happy to take pictures to just show how difficult it is and just to be able to tell that it's not a legit copy because you still, I mean, I know now that it's not legit, but looking at it, you couldn't convince me that it's not.
Tracy said in the chat that she said some of the British television shows they're getting from Midwest Tape have purple instead of the silver on the back of them. And she contacted them and said some of the British manufacturers use the purple instead of the silver backing, and they're legit. So that's interesting. I haven't seen one of those yet. I would have assumed something was terribly wrong with the disc. So that's good to know. And that makes me wonder if that's an anti-piracy thing. Because I'm assuming manufacturers are going to start trying to come out with these things so that people can't pirate them as easily. But who knows? There's such good, sakes out there that it's just going to always be a sticky issue.
I feel like the bootlegs that I have come across that are a little more obvious do have that like purpley blue on the back of the disc.
Do they?
Yeah, like somebody burned it. I don't know if just every now and again, like we get donations of stuff where somebody has made their own library, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And the back of the disc, instead of being silver, is kind of a bluish purple. I don't know if that's the same thing she's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's apparently a manufacturing thing also. So that is something to look out for. Second, she said the second sister is Sister Boniface. And she assumed it was, yeah, and they said it wasn't. She assumed bootleg and it was not. So that's interesting because it's getting people who are trying to fake things are getting more sophisticated than we can be aware of at this juncture. When I was, cataloging full time, a bootleg was like super, super obvious. Like there were spelling errors. It was bad. Nowadays, not so much. So we just need to be more aware, and it happens to everybody. So, whatever. But there is a policy up now in case this does happen. And what will happen is, the committee contacts you to remove something from the catalog, and if there's holds on it, etc. So just be aware. So anybody have any questions about the piracy policy? Anything that we've talked about, really? The 040, the 049, our summary, our crib sheets. I'm never going to say that right.
I have a suggestion.
Mhm.
Well, just a reminder, I've been adding lots of records lately, and the people that do the on orders, people are still adding other records. So you're getting duplicates of those records in the Evergreen.
Okay.
Just to be mindful.
Yep, be mindful of that. And also keep an eye if you are a library who is adding on order records in batch. Make sure that, now this is only going to make sense to people who do this, make sure that the profile you are using matches and then doesn't bring in that record if it has a match. Because you can set up your incoming records to do several things. You can completely overlay them all the time. You can only overlay them if they have certain fields. But if your profile is not set up correctly, even if you're not meaning to, you may still be bringing in the records if one exists, even if there's a match. So just be aware, you may need to check your profile. If you don't know what that means and we need to talk more, please email me and we'll discuss, because it is kind of confusing. And again, the first person who comes to that on order record or library, whatever, that is in all caps, that has the item in hand, should be editing it. Once the first person with the item in hand, you're responsible for changing it from all caps and editing the record to completion. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Our next meeting will be November 13th at 11 a.m. So same time, same channel, 11 a.m. on the Zoom, November 13th. As always, if you have questions, please email me or Cat Help, or if you feel comfortable with somebody specific on the committee, email them. But please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything. And of course, you'll be hearing from me shortly as I type up the list of crib sheets that I'm going to make, and I will send those out to you. Last call for questions or comments before we end the meeting. All right. So having seen no further comments or questions, I think we are done for today, guys. So I will see you next month, if not before then, and happy cataloging as always.